Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Diaspora Network, where we celebrate Nigerians making remarkable strides around the world. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On today's program, we turn our focus to the power of storytelling and the Nigerians using their voice to spark difficult conversations. Our guest is award-winning writer Dr. Samuel Kolawole, author of The Road to the Salt Sea, a novel that sheds light on the sub-Saharan migration crisis. He speaks to us about winning the Whiting Award and the role of fiction in illuminating the human dimensions of global issues. But before that, here's a look at what's making headlines across the global Nigerian community.
Nigerian documentary filmmaker Joel Kachi Benson has taken home an Emmy Award for his powerful Disney documentary, Madu.
Madu, Disney Plus.
All right. And the Emmy goes to Madu.
The film won Outstanding Arts and Culture Documentary at the 2025 News and Documentary Emmy Awards held in New York City. Co-directed by Matt Ogens, Madu was first nominated in May and received its honor at a glittering ceremony at Palladium Times Square. The documentary tells the remarkable story of Anthony Madu, a young ballet dancer from Nigeria who captured the world's attention in 2020 after a 44-second clip of him dancing barefoot in the rain went viral, racking up over 16 million views. The film follows his journey from humble beginnings in Lagos to earning a prestigious scholarship at Elmhurst Ballet School in the UK.
Thank you. When we met Anthony, he was just a kid dancing through doubt, searching for his place in the world that didn't always see him. Madu is about that search for belonging, for connection. It's a story of resilience, of courage, and finding your voice when it would be easier to stay silent. This is my co-director and a friend, Kachi, who flew in from Nigeria, has something to say.
This is a great honor. Thanks to Disney and the entire team at Hunting Lane. This win is for Nigeria, really. Thank you. And would like to dedicate this to Anthony Madu and every kid out there who has a dream. The world is watching and waiting to hear your story. Thank you.
Dr. Timileyin Olusheye, a Nigerian physician, has become the first person ever to win all 8 top awards in his medical residency program. The achievement, the first in the Louisiana State University's history, also makes him the first Black doctor to receive this distinction, outperforming his peers across every major performance metric. Dr. Olusheye was honored for his exceptional contributions to clinical practice, research, leadership, and patient care. In another history-making moment, US-based Nigerian lawyer and political figure Owolabi Salis has become the first Nigerian to travel beyond Earth's atmosphere. He was one of 6 private astronauts aboard Blue Origin's NS-33 suborbital mission, which launched from West Texas on June the 29th, 2025. The capsule soared past the Kármán line, the boundary of outer space, reaching a height of 105.2 kilometers above sea level. The 10-minute space flight, part of Blue Origin's New Shepard program, is a milestone in the push to make space travel accessible to civilians, a vision led by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. And a Nigerian scientist is gaining international recognition for her groundbreaking work in plant biology. Cynthia Anukege, a biologist at the University of Nebraska, has been awarded a $5,000 research grant under the school's Graduate Research and Creativity Activity Award. Her research explores the genetic diversity of a native North American legume with vital ecological significance. Using molecular analysis and DNA sequencing, She hopes to unlock insights into how native plants adapt over time with long-term applications in sustainable agriculture. And that's your Diaspora Network news wrap from London.
And now to our theme of the week. We spotlight Nigerians who are using their talents to tell the stories that matter, stories of migration, justice, and hope. They remind us that storytelling isn't just art, it's a tool to inform and shine light on critical issues often overlooked.
Writing and telling stories is more than a creative act. For many, it's a way to document lived realities, challenge dominant narratives, and pass on cultural memory. Stories help us make sense of who we are, where we come from, and what we hope for. They humanize experiences, often reduce the headlines or statistics, and they create space for connection, empathy, and dialogue.
Not for the first time, she wished she'd had some guidance along the way. Someone to warn her that actual working life relied on so much more than intellect and being the smartest in the class.
In a world where many voices are still silenced or misunderstood, British Nigerian Sarah Ladipo Mayinka is renowned for championing African voices in global literature. As the first African woman vice president of the Royal Society of Literature, she works to diversify the literary canon. Her debut novel, Independence, explores race, romance, and identity in post-colonial Britain. Mayinka's writing and editorial work focus on migration, aging, and uplifting marginalized voices. She is also a patron of the Women's Prize for Fiction and serves on several international literary boards. Sefi Atta, an award-winning Nigerian-American writer whose work explores the complexities of identity, gender, and class in contemporary society. Her debut novel, Everything Good Will Come, won the Wole Soyinka Prize for Literature in Africa, and her novel, Swallow, was adopted into a Netflix series. Atta's fiction, including A Bit of Difference and The Bad Immigrant, centers on strong, layered Nigerian women navigating social expectations and shifting cultural landscapes. As a playwright and screenwriter, she has brought nuanced African voices to the stage and screen in Nigeria, the UK, and the United States. Tope Folari, winner of the Kane Prize for African Writing, uses storytelling to bridge culture, advocacy, and identity. Her debut novel, A Particular Kind of Black Man, grapples with growing up Nigerian in the American South, exploring faith, immigration, psychological toil, and belonging. As executive director of the Institute for Policy Studies, he combines words and policy to combat inequality and shape national conversations on racial equity, democracy, and social justice. And Abi Dare is an author whose storytelling amplifies the voices of marginalized women and girls. Her debut novel, The Girl with the Loudoun Voice, captivated readers worldwide with its portrayal of a young Nigerian girl's fight for education and empowerment. In May 2025, Dare won the inaugural Climate Fiction Prize for her novel And So I Roar, a compelling narrative intertwining environmental injustice and social inequality in rural Nigeria.
And now to our guest, Dr. Samuel Kolawole, a writer and assistant professor at Pennsylvania State University. His award-winning novel, The Road to the Salt Sea, has been described as one of the most urgent books of our time, exploring the harsh realities of migration, displacement, and inequality.
By the time he picked up the unfamiliar call from New York, Dr. Samuel Kolawole had no idea he was about to be named one of the 2025 Whiting Award winners for fiction. He almost didn't answer.
One of the most important things about you can do for a writer is to buy is time, is to give a writer time to be able to make art, and money buys you time, you know. So if you have money, you don't have to work, you know, for money, and then you have more time to write. So that was one, you know, that was one good thing. I almost didn't pick the call when I was when the call came in because they have the interesting thing about the Whiting Award is that you do not enter for it. Your publisher don't. Your publishers are not allowed to enter on behalf of their authors. You are nominated anonymously. They nominate about 100 writers, and then they whittle it down to the winners. So it was a pleasure. So I got the call because the call came from New York and it wasn't a number I know. So and I don't pick numbers that I know that I don't know. But I'd been expecting a routine call from my doctor. So I thought it was my doctor. So I picked it. The award also acted as a form of validation in a way. Writing is a very solitary pursuit. It's a solitary pursuit, and you do your quite little thing in the corner of your room, and most times it goes unrewarded, you know. And sometimes you wonder if people are paying attention. So, but sometimes you get lucky and things like this happen.
He spent his childhood in Ibadan, born into a family of 12. With 5 brothers in the house, it was loud but rich in books.
I grew up in a very large family, a family of 12. And I was raised with 5 brothers. So you can imagine how chaotic that must have been like. So it was an exciting upbringing. My father retired as a researcher. My mom taught for a while, for over 30 years, and then also retired. So we had a lot of books around us. In fact, we were not really my father didn't believe that we should have too much time to play. Uh, he was a disciplinarian, and so all we had were books around us and our imaginations. So I would just read, and I remember I would wander in the house and I would make up stories in my head to just entertain myself. I did that for many years. And that was kind of what laid the foundation for my writing.
But it was a difficult teenage chapter, one marked by depression, that revealed his calling.
It started around when I became a teenager. I was depressed, I don't know what happened. I was just very depressed. So I would lock myself up in the room and I would not come out for days. But of course, because we had books around us, I literally had piles of books around me in my bedroom. There was a transistor radio, but there were books around me. So and because I would get bored and then read those books. So I read a lot of books. I read Thomas Hardy, Charles Dickens, and I also read books from the Heinemann African Writers series, which was part of my literary education. And that happened for a couple of months till I said to myself, maybe I should even write, and that was how I started writing, and I haven't looked back since then. So it was that dark moment in my life that in a way God used to show me my path. And then I started reading J.M. Coetzee, Nadine Godima. Then later on, Ben Okri's Famished Road was really instrumental in my writing journey, because that was when it was Ben Okri's Famished Road that gave me the permission, made me think that I could do that kind of a thing. There are other authors have have inspired me and continue to inspire me. And I'm grateful that I have I'm not just one voice. I am part of a story.
From Nigeria to South Africa, Sweden, and now the United States, Dr. Kolawole has lived and taught across continents. Yet, the farther he travels, the closer he feels to home.
I find that the farther I get, away from home, the more I think about home. So every time I'm in a foreign land, I go back to my memories of home, and it makes me want to write about home even more. So it's a strange thing because a lot of writers in the diaspora don't experience that. But for me, it was that way. Uh, so whenever I'm in a new country, when I was in South Africa, I kept thinking about Nigeria, about my country, about the landscape of my country, about the people of my country, about the situation of my country. Um, Same, I was in Sweden for a while, same thing. Then when I finally moved to the United States, so it's like it's that longing that comes from being apart from from something you are familiar with.
When we return from a quick break, Samuel Kolawole shares his thoughts on the role of writers in giving voice to stories that reveal the human side of global challenges. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on the program. Now, more from our conversation with writer Dr. Samuel Kolawole, including his advice to aspiring storytellers.
His debut novel, The Road to the Salt Sea, was born from an artistic road trip across West Africa and a chance encounter in Ghana with migrants who had crossed the Sahara.
The inspiration behind The Road to the Salt Sea, let's say the seed was planted in me many years ago. I think it was around 2013. I was on a road trip. It was an artistic road trip with a group of writers and artists. And what we would do is that we would leave, we travel through 4 West African countries. We'd go to a country, we'd do stop for like a week, and we'll do exhibitions and readings and presentations, and then we'll move to the next country. And then when we got to Ghana, I happened on a group of men who shared their stories with me, and they talked about how they had tried to cross the Sahara Desert, and well, they actually crossed the Sahara Desert and went to Libya and had been deported. And I just couldn't get their stories out of my mind, because before then I had a mental knowledge of the situation. I was, I saw it in the news. There were just statistics or pictures of, people drowning at sea and all of that. But this was the first time I was going to meet someone. And then I realized that, these people are not just statistics. They are actually men, women, dreamers, lovers, fathers, daughters, humans. So that kind of stayed in my mind for so many years until I decided I was going to process it into fiction. So I wrote a story that was published by a Boston-based journal called Sweet, Sweet Strawberry Taste. It was a short story. And when that short story came out, it really resonated with readers. Readers became, I got emails from all over the place, and they were telling me how the story touched them and all of that. And then I said, why not expand this into a novel? And that was what became The Road to the Salt Sea. And so when I was doing research, I couldn't find a lot of materials about it. I got some articles here and there, and I found a wonderful book about it, a nonfiction, but I couldn't find a lot about it. In the US, the focus is always on the southern border of the United States. In the UK and in Europe, they play politics with it. And then occasionally they would show some people drowning and all of that, and people pity them, probably raise some funds, and that's it. But there's nothing, we are not looking at this situation the way we should look at it, which is, this is not just a problem. This is not a migrant crisis. This is an inequality crisis. This is a, this is a climate change crisis, climate crisis. For example, Africa contributes the least to greenhouse gases in the world, but they are the most vulnerable to climate change. So a lot of people from Somalia, from Sudan, from some parts of sub-Saharan Africa, are forced to leave their country or to leave their homes because of droughts, because they cannot, what is around them cannot sustain life.
By turning faceless headlines into fully formed humans, he calls on readers and leaders to confront the systems that drive desperation.
There's a quote, the epigraph in front of my novel, before the first thing you read, is a quote by a poet called Washanshire. He says, "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark." So just seeing the humanity, understanding that these people are going on that treacherous journey for a reason, and that they also have dreams in their hearts, and that we are not better than them, and that we just seeing it that way first will change a lot of things. Just seeing people as humans, because there are things that happen in Nigeria, and I wonder if the government sees people as human beings, So bringing out the humanity of this situation, and that is part of our role as writers of fiction, is to kind of show our readers the human dimensions of the political stuff that we see around.
Now an assistant professor of English and African Studies at Pennsylvania State University, he celebrates the growing range of African literature.
The role of a writer is to mirror the society. So, for example, I can't speak for any other writer, but I know that I tell stories, social stories. Those are the kind of things I'm not interested in just entertaining as a writer. I'm also interested in telling stories that kind of mirror what is going on in the society, and sometimes what we see in that reflection is not pleasant, and that's okay. But there are other stories. We can also tell other stories. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie talked about the danger of a single story. So and a lot of exciting things. I'm glad that so many exciting things are happening in the diaspora now, and Nigerians and Africans are telling exciting stories. And it's not just restricted to the kind of stories I tell. There are other stories as well. Romance is becoming a thing in African and Nigerian literature now. Science fiction and fantasy, speculative fiction is on the rise in Africa right now. And that is great. We want to enjoy the multiplicity of stories around, so that Africa won't be portrayed as one thing.
Years ago, he started Writers Studio in Nigeria to help young writers hone their craft. When asked what advice he gives to aspiring African writers, his response was simple.
Resilience. you have to, once you have been able to identify that this is what you are passionate about and this is what you want to do, then you go after it. You go for it. I ask writers, if there was no reward attached to writing, would you still write? If it didn't give you any money, if it didn't give you anything, would you still write? And I've asked myself that question, again, many times in the past. And I realized, I said, yes, because I was when writing didn't make sense, I was writing. So once you have been able to identify that this is what you are cut out for, then pressing, keep growing, because a lot of times people talk about pressing in and being resilient and being, going all in, but they are not growing in the process. So because it's a tough industry, you are going to receive a lot of rejections. So what is going to keep you going is that passion. But whenever you receive a rejection, go back to the drawing board and see what you can improve, what can be better, how you can be a better writer. And I practice what I preach. That is how I've, grown as a writer. And that is what has brought me here.
And that wraps up another inspiring episode of Diaspora Network. To watch more episodes of Nigerians doing amazing things around the world, visit our YouTube channel or website, channelcd.com. Until next time, I'm Teniola Oyetayo. Thank you for watching.